Shall we start?
Yeah, we can, Priyanka.
Okay. Uh, Good afternoon, everyone. On behalf of CII Center of Excellence for Innovation, Entrepreneurship and Startups, I am delighted to welcome all of you for today's exclusive masterclass for startups on From Product to Purpose, the art of business storytelling. As entrepreneurs and innovators, in today's dynamic market, success not only just depends on the great product or the service that we are providing, but also on how the customer is authenticating your connection stories, resonating to your values and experiences. In this specially curated masterclass, we have explored how we can move beyond the transactions and build lasting relationship through purposeful storytelling. Ms. Kripi Singh, CEO and Chief Storyteller at AVW Storyteller LLP, brings you the wealth of experience in helping brands and founders communicate their why in a compelling, memorable way. In the next 1 hour, you will learn a lot of things. Learn how to transform your product or a service into a powered, purpose-driven narrative, art of communicating your brand, and further. I would like to invite Ms. Kripi to lead us the discussion forward. Hope you have a interactive session.
Thank you so much, Priyanka. Really thankful to all of you who have joined today. And I would firstly want to congratulate you all because you have understood why business storytelling is important, right? It is not just, I'll ask you a few questions. And though I wanted to keep it interactive, but I do understand we have limited time. And there are a lot many participants who would want to gain out of this, workshop. So I would give you a scenario, right? I would ask you to think of why would, you know, firstly, how do you pitch, right? And do you think is it the right way to pitch or not, right? So we usually end up pitching, when we go to any of our stakeholders, right? Or if we go to our customers as well, right? We often end up pitching about the features of our product or service, right? That this is something that we have created, this is the technology, and this is the latest technology. Or probably we often talk about the kind of clientele that we have, right? Or the kind of accolades that we have won, or the recognition we have from various organizations or institutions, right? This is the normal format that you would find most of the founders doing. But here in today's session, right, what I will tell you is, it is not just about, we okay, accolades are good, right? Technology that you are using is fantastic, right? But does it suffice? Are people actually going to make a buying decision when they think about your product or service? Yeah. So in this session, we will talk about, how should we form a narrative, what kind of stakeholders are involved. And it is not just usually our customer, right? Because in India, what usually happens is, or I've seen with many, even mid-sized company or small-sized companies and startups, is, again, the same thing. They only focus on one stakeholder, that is the customer. I understand the money comes from them, right? They are going to, once they, or you are ending up putting up, testimonial of how great your service was, right? So we'll talk about why stakeholders are important, how are we crafting narrative, and we'll also talk about case studies in today's session, right? So if I ask you to think of two people, right? One whom you love, and secondly, whom you may not like too much, right? Two images come to your mind, right? One you love would probably be of your partner or your sibling or your parents, right? Or probably a friend who has helped you in a need, right? And when you think of person whom you do not like, or probably hate is a stronger word here, yeah. So uh, the feelings are opposite, right? Why am I talking about people you love or you hate, right? Now think of a people who are almost non-existent to you. Okay. It can be a colleague at workplace or a neighbor or an acquaintance you might have, or probably a person you would simply have met at a party, right? So you do not remember the image or the face of that person. Eh, they neither fall into the category of love or hate, or somebody whom you do not like. Now think of a company, right, which you admire or you probably love or your experience was great with. Yeah, definitely if it would have been a great experience, it would fall into love category, and if it be in a dislike or hate category, it would have been an awful experience, right? Think of a non-existent company. अगर आप सोचेंगे भी ना, आप तो आपके दिमाग में भी दूर दूर तक कोई नाम नहीं आएगा, राइट? So our organizations fall into the category of non-existent, and I'll tell you why. When you think of person you love, right, it definitely, they might have definitely fostered a sense of purpose in your life, right? There would be an emotional connection with them. There would be differentiation and identity, and they definitely would have built that kind of trust and credibility with you. Yeah, and that is the reason why they fall into the love category, right? And you definitely would have had a memorable or engaging communication with them, right, which would have created a kind of a consistency and alignment with you. Hmm? Now, when you think of a person or a company that you dislike or hate, it would have been totally opposite, right? For example, I'll now take the case study of Tesla. So when you talk about Tesla, was Tesla the only company that was making electric vehicles? Were there no companies before that? Think of it. I'm sure there would have been companies, who would be doing electric vehicles way before Tesla also. Hmm? और उसके बाद भी कर रही हैं. But what do you think Tesla did differently, which created a kind of inspiration, right? Or a purpose for people, and suddenly it became a huge hit, right? So when you think of Tesla, hmm, and think of how they introduced themselves, they didn't come into the market and told you that, they are another electric vehicle manufacturing company that is doing a great job, doing sustainability, or throwing around jargons of, sustainable future or this and that, right? What did Tesla really focused on? Tesla focused on the vision of sustainable future, right? And they called themselves the Electric Revolution Company, and they invited people to be a part of it, right? So Tesla, what kind of emotions did they evoke? Tesla evoked emotions of excitement. Tesla evoked emotions of hope, desire, a part, a part of, inviting people to be a part of positive change, right? And then they positioned themselves as a pioneer or disruptors in the EV market, right? And and it was not just an electric vehicle manufacturing company, but yes, a company that was creating an electric revolution, right? We often talk about brand identity, right? So usually when you talk about brand identity, people end up creating a logo, right? They end up creating similar kind of color tones, putting, making, agar hara hai to, they'll go green everywhere, be it in their brochure, graphic, on social media, film, anything or everything. Yeah. But brand identity is just not your logo, right? Or a graphic that you have created for your social media, right? What is brand identity and how Tesla really encashed it? So their brand identity was built on technological innovation, right? They were offering high performance vehicles, sleek design, and their storytelling emphasized on that unique differentiation, right? Which was helping them to stand out and then build trust and credibility. So when we often post testimonials on our social media or on our website, right, it is by the satisfied customers, right? But Tesla also, what they did was they, focused on notable figures, right? They had put in all the efforts on, they were not asking general people to come and talk about it. They invited industry leaders, they invited famous popular people, right? So that it engages there. Yeah, so there is a trust and credibility built, there is storytelling to their story. So all of that, right? And when we think of creating an engaging and a memorable communication, how do you think Tesla did that? Or what do you think, created a lasting impressions in the audience's mind, that they were like, oh yeah, see, Tesla came in very late, right? When we talk about Tesla, it came in very late in India, though it was international, though being an international brand, everybody did hear about it. People were searching about it, googling about the kind of cars that they are making. So you have to create that buzz, right? And not just merely tell about your product or your service, right? So, and what kind of sense of purpose do you think Tesla, evoked in people, right? Because it was not, they were just not positioning themselves as a electric vehicle manufacturing company. However, right, they focused on the need of urgent need for clean transportation, right? And how role of EVs is, reducing carbon emission, right? So this is the kind of narrative that they created for themselves, right? Well, I would ask a question here. What other brand comes to your mind when you think of, somebody who has created a narrative for their brand, right? And the reason why we named this workshop, from product to purpose, was we are not just, we as an entrepreneurs are visionaries, right? We are not just here to sell our product, right? We are here to create a vision so that it aligns with people, right? And we create a greater impact to it. I do understand, yes, we are here to make money, and that is what, why each one of you has built the business, right? But think beyond that, right? Think in terms of how can you take it to masses.
People are answering in the chat.
Oh, I am unable to see the chat. Can you give me the access, please?
You have the access.
Just a second.
Let me know when you have to move the slide also.
Yeah, sure. But honestly, I'm not able to see anything in the chat as well.
So if they have written the Cadbury, Geo, Anand Mahindra, Nike, Fevicol,
Oh yes,
Apple,
yes,
Apple,
yes. I can
Samsung.
see the chat now. Yeah. So yes, Apple is a great example. Johnson and Johnson is a great example. Zoho Corp is a great example. Marico is a great example. Cadbury is a great example. I would tell you something here, right? Sometimes, what is really an authentic storytelling? You cannot be selling a packet full of sugar and call it a health drink, right? That's it. That is typical marketing, right? That is gimmicking people into buying something, um, or probably masking it in a way that they would never use it if they come to know the truth, right? So what is authentic storytelling? Authentic storytelling is neither about telling your own journey, right? Is not about, no, is not only about telling your product's journey, or your company's journey, but how are the people really going to benefit by what you are creating, right? You must be going to various networking events as an entrepreneur, or probably meeting a lot of investors, right? Or potential customers. Most of the times you will hear it, good for you, keep doing, you're doing really well, and they do not take interest. The reason why they do not take interest in any of any of the pitches that you have made is only because you are not talking about how is it going to benefit them, right? For example, if it comes to investor pitch, right, you need to tell what your solution is and how is it going to benefit the investor, right? Similarly, when you are going to your customer, rather than just telling about the features of your product, tell about how is it going to change their life, right? So most of the times, yes, Amul, Arpita, you are very right. Amul is one of the brands. When we think of a milk cooperative, right? Yes, it is a true first Indian brand. And when we think of a milk cooperative or Amul, right? We never thought of that it can become so big. How did it become so big? It became so big because they were actually able to craft a narrative. If you see, it is not just because they created, the Amul girl, right? There is a story of not just about Amul girl, but how they created that character and interacted with the public or the people, and that is why it became very popular. For example, Fevicol, right? How did Fevicol became a household name? Nirma became a household name. Yeah. So think of these things. So these people are not merely telling, अच्छा मैं ये करता हूँ, this and that. No, focus on, talk about how is it going to benefit them, right? Or how is it going to make their lives easier? I would request, if some participants can talk about their businesses here, so that I will be able to help them with the kind of, yeah, I'll Snigdha, I'll tell you about B2B storytelling, right? Usually when we talk about storytelling, often focused on customer, right? People do not understand that we have different stakeholders, right? It is not just our customer, it is our employee also, it is our investor as well, right? It is it is the MDs, right? They are also our stakeholders. So your narrative should not be just focused on what you are selling to the customer, right? It should be more focused on, yes, as Ketan Parekh said, telemedicine for rural population, right? So how would you provide a value to them? You have to talk about that narrative, right? And I would request all my fellow entrepreneurs here, please stop using jargons, right? Throwing big words or jargons is not okay, right? Your communication, be it on social media, be it on your website or on your YouTube channel, or a document that you are sharing with anybody, has to be idiot proof. What does idiot proof mean? It has to be simple. It has to be created in a way where people Anybody who does not even understand or does not know about your industry can simply read it and understand it. And the communication has to be very simple, right? Think of your families, right? Is your communication same with your partner? Can you talk about the same thing that you talk to your partner about? क्या आप वो अपनी मदर से बात कर सकते हैं? Do we do that, right? Or probably children. So is the narrative not different for everybody in the family? And what you can talk to your sister, if you are chatting with your sister, you may not be able to talk about the same thing or the same topic with your father, right? Or probably when you are even if you're taking the same topic, understand this: your tone will be different to your father, your tone will be different to your grandmother, your tone will be different to a 3-year old or a 5-year old and a 23-year old, right? So this is how we have to create a narrative. Things cannot be generic or general, right? हम ये सोचते हैं what we as business owner often mistake it as, uh, when we are particularly communicating कि this can this can go to this communication can go to everyone, be it internal stakeholders, be it external stakeholders. No, it doesn't work like that, and it has never worked, right? Make your communication separate for each stakeholder, and the sooner you understand this, right, the sooner you understand this, the more you will benefit out of it, right? So when you think of Amul, did they not make communication easier for you to relate, right? Did they not create a kind of relatability with the audiences that they were serving to? So think of it. Are we doing it? Are we really doing it? Or we are just, putting up what we have done in chat GPT, taking out few points with n number of emoticons that chat GPT generates? Do you think is it going to solve the purpose? Definitely not. Definitely not. So when brands are built, right? Or for example, when we have to, when we have to typically, when we took an example of Tesla, right? The kind of communication that they created, the kind of narrative that they created, that it is Tesla's electric revolution. And Arpita, yes, every as per your target audience, be it B2B, right? Be it B2C, not necessarily you would be selling a soap or a shampoo, right? Your service would be B2B. So, for example, if we talk about tele, right? What kind of problem did tele solve for entrepreneurs? Please write it in the chat box. What kind of problem did tele solve for entrepreneurs? It was again, s- you know, again B2B, right? It was not a typical retail product which was endorsed by Katrina Kaif or any celebrity, right? Or anybody influential, right? So if we talk about B2B businesses, think of what did and for what section of people, uh, did it solve it? Yes, accounts management, E2E, compliance to accounting standard, cost effective. Yeah, definitely, Bipin. Startups definitely do not have money for advertising. We are not asking you to advertise in a way where you are seen on billboards, right? The reason why I took Telly's example is every business is built over time, right? If in initial 5 years or initial 6 years you will you use, if you have you cannot which jargon am I using, Vijay? So when you talk about, the reason why I took, Telly's name was it created a software, right, or software as service, which were focused for entrepreneurs, be it mid-sized, small entrepreneurs, right? And the kind of problem they were solving for it, right? You are absolutely right that when we typically yes, because Rajiv Singhal has mentioned a very great point here, that tele was promoted through main influences that were chartered accountants, right? So who was their target audience? Yeah, chartered accountant could influence them, right? For example, I'll give you an example of Lux, or probably any beauty brand, right? They would hire Katrina Kaif to probably, support their brand and talk about it. So what, who are their stakeholders? Or for example, if we talk about sugar, right? Who are the stakeholders for sugar? Young girls or probably women, who could that kind, who love makeup a lot, and would want to try out a new range, right, in a very economic price, right? Or college going girls, right? So they created a brand for them, right? And understand this, just labeling your business that it is a B2B business or it is a B2C business, right, doesn't suffice. If it is a B2B business, for a B2B business, you need to understand the pain points of the people, right? What is their problem that other businesses facing, that I am going to solve it for them? How am I going to make life easier for them, right? Um, what are their aspirations, right? For example, a girl buying a Lux soap, right, which is obviously a 10 rupee soap or a 20 rupee soap or a 30 rupee soap, right? So what so Lux here is selling aspiration, right? Lux here is yes, it is selling aspiration through whom? Through Katrina Kaif or any celebrity, right? I completely agree with you, Gaurav, that it is hard to get the support system as startup, right? We are not asking you to place billboards in your company's name, but understand this. If the communication is right, or the narrative that you have crafted for your business is right, right, it will eventually reach to people. Communication, more than just dissemination, has to be strategic, right? Probably, if we people, yes, people would prefer old school method, people would prefer, social media as well. So there are different kind of audiences. For them, you have to strategically understand, right, of how do you really need to for example, if you have, and if you are into B2C, right, and if your customers are senior citizens, right, they might not be on social media, or they may be on social media, right, or probably they are particularly on WhatsApp, right? So agar WhatsApp pe hai, so you have to be there on that platform. You just cannot stick to two three platforms of, which are typically popular, but you need to understand where my customer is present and how am I going to disseminate my message at the same time, right? um, So when we talk about General Electric, right? General Electric, have you heard of what General Electric is and how old the company is? Priyanka, can you please go to the slide 21? Can you please go to the slide 21? Yeah, thank you. See, when we typically talk about General Electric, right? So General Electric was a company that transitioned into renewable energy and climate solutions, right? And it is obviously a 100-year-old company founded in 1892, and it had a long history of innovation and manufacturing, right, across various industries. So when we talk about Electrics, right, the company has made obviously significant strides in renewable energy and sustainability. And if you see their campaigns, or if you see their, how they have connected to people, especially it is for people who are in who are into tech, right? They would understand this. If you read a case study about General Electric. So General Electric focused on creating an emotional connection with their audience, right, by highlighting how the positive impact of their technology is helping people. So you remember my point, that you have to highlight how is this going to change your life, right? And they also, did tell the story, or evoked that kind of emotions that gave people in awe, inspiration, and hope. For example, when you think of when you if you have heard of their campaign called childlike imagination, right? So GE focused on innovation in healthcare technology, right? And how that healthcare technology is going to save and improve the lives of children, right? And this is how it created a emotional connection with its viewers. And when we typically talk about the kind of differentiation and identity they had created was, you know, um, of course, it was created through innovative and being a technology driven company. And they highlighted that, how through their cutting edge research, right? How through their cutting edge development, right? It stood out as a leader, right? We cannot be just a product seller or a service seller. We have to uh, again and again go to people, tell them what your vision is and how the life for them is going to change. For example, another campaign that we talk about is Brilliant Machines, right? So they pioneered themselves in the industrial internet also, and they showcased the kind of advanced machinery that they had and the kind of software solutions that they had. Yeah. And uh, their credibility was built upon real life examples, right? On real life world examples where the technology has actually solved a very complex challenge, right? Through case studies, through success stories, through testimonials. And this is how they establish themselves as a trusted and a reliable partner. So again, I would mention, one of the very powerful campaigns that they had was GE Works, right? It completely highlighted the stories of how GE employees would closely work with the customers, right? And when they closely worked with the customer, they were able to deliver that kind of innovative solution, build and credibility and the trust they have built by working alongside their customers. Hmm. So, see, when we often talk about leveraging platforms, right, through multimedia or through old school methods, right, you firstly need to identify where is my audience, where are they present, what kind of language do they use, what are their aspirations, what are their pain points, right? So similarly, GE used typical compelling narratives, right? They leveraged videos, they leveraged you know interactive experiences, they leveraged social media as well, and this is how they gathered the attention. So in today's world, right, when the attention span has gone down to 3 seconds, right, and people are literally scrolling, right, if they do not find anything interesting, they typically don't even bother to put another second to it, and they'll just leave. So in this highly noisy world and a highly noisy market, right, where you have immense competition, the only way to stand is out is through narrative, right? So again, they did couple of campaigns. One of them was unimpossible missions, right? where they talked about their engineering, prowess, how did they solve the impossible challenges, how the company's mission and vision to take on these global challenges helped them through innovative solutions. And this is how, through consistency and alignment, in their storytelling, they created that brand messaging, they created that story, and they were consistent across all different platforms, right? Also, we've spoken about, engaging in memorable communication, consistency and alignment. Also, when you put your vision forward, right, or eventually pitching to an investor, right, do remember to foster a sense of purpose, right? How would you do that? By inviting them to be a part of your community, right? For example, GE works for better health. Again, this was a campaign, right? How their technologies contributed to, access to quality healthcare globally. And, it's kind of fostered a sense of purpose where people could actually feel aligned to it, right? For example, some of our industry leaders are an emotion, right? Some of our political leaders are an emotion, right? So we have to foster a sense of purpose, create an emotional connection, and build a story around that, right? Um, and it is not just through, I'll also give you a framework today, right, of how you can build your narrative. We did speak about, Tesla, Amul. We did talk about Apple briefly, of how Apple with its technology, right? Though Apple only has 14% share in the world market, right? But how people are crazy about Apple. Think of what are they providing, right? Think of what kind of narrative that they have formed. Take up any brand, which has done well, and then research about, or you can go through case studies about how they have created that brand, right? So when we talk about creating any kind of narrative, what do you think is essential?
Krippy, just one,
Yeah, yeah.
your voice is going away.
Okay, 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 okay. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Yeah, yeah. So when you think of creating a brand or a narrative, what do you think are the few main points? Please feel free to write in the chat. Of course, brand recall. But brand recall, firstly, we need to build a brand now. Then only brand recall would happen. So what do you think is important, or what gets people excited, or how is it going to, yes, of course, Sohail, the impact they are creating, or the value proposition that they have, or the ideas. Yeah. Yeah, relatability, right? Target audience. Yes, 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 we did talk about all. But have you can you share, can any of you share, one of your favorite biopics, um not biopics, but something, any of the movies. Yeah, MS Dhoni. Right, 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 Rajesh. Right. So what do you think was inspiring in MS Dhoni's biopic or journey? 12th Fail was one. Right. Very right. Yeah, yes, character and attitude, right? Now I'll tell you about, if we talk about any biopic, right? Yeah, raising Kavita, you've rightly mentioned, raising from a normal struggling life to stardom, right? And it inspires everyone. Yeah. And people were, yes, Dr. Harsh Sethi, people were able to relate to their life journey, right? Yeah. So when we talk about creating a narrative, right? And if we talk about any of the biopics or the, the Superman stories or the Spider-Man stories, what was similar about them, right? MS Dhoni started from a normal life, how he was one of the commoners, right? And how his, how he rose to stardom. And it had inspirational, and it had definitely had inspiration, Hamsavardhan, yeah. So what was it that, that inspired you also? Yeah, of course, a hero story. Godfather is one. Yeah. Yes, there was inspiration, that there was connection, there was effort. Yeah. So what all things do you see in common here? Do you see a heroic journey, right? Of how in the ordinary world, right, this person was suffering, and how this person overcame all the obstacles, right? I would also request you to please take notes here. This is something very important of about crafting a narrative, right? So how this person overcame obstacles, right, and became a hero. Yeah. So when you think of a product, hmm, when you think of your product or your service, right, think of a heroic story, that how in such a noisy world, right, how you are able to, change the narrative, right, and the kind of obstacles that you have seen, and how this product or service is going to change the every is going to change everybody's life, right? I'll give you a 4C framework. You'll ask me what is a 4C framework, right? So when you talk about 4C framework, it is, you know, the framework to create a narrative for your brand, right? First one is clarity. What is your big idea, right? Write that in one line. I repeat, clarity. What is your big idea, and write that in one line, right? Secondly, conflict. So the first C of 4C framework is clarity. The second one is conflict, right? What kind of a challenge or problem, right, that triggered your journey to building this product, right? Third is the character, just like MS Dhoni, right? So now you will replace MS Dhoni with your product or service. So how this product or service, right? Or if we talk about founder story, right? Who you are as a person, and what inspired you for this mission, right? So the first framework is clarity. The second one is conflict, right? The kind of challenges or obstacles that you have overcome, or your product or service has overcome, right? And what really inspired you to do, right? And fourth is, what do you think would be the fourth point? Any ideas? You can please feel free to write in chat. What do you think would be the fourth point? See, Avi, we are not talking about campaign managers and stuff like that. If you focus on, this 4C framework, right, Abhishek, you will get most of the answers, right? You will have a clarity, be it a B2B presentation, be it a discussion document, sales team ka document, you will have a clarity about each one of it, right? And this is the mantra that I'm giving you, right? So what do you think is the fourth C? Could be, some says consistency, some says creative thinking, somebody said character. Yes, I would elaborate character, Rajiv. Don't worry about that. Character is the person. For example, in MS Dhoni's movie or in Spider-Man movie, who was the character? Character was MS Dhoni, who came from a simple background, faced all obstacles, right? And the strength of his character came overcame all the obstacles, right? And then he was able to change the world for himself and other people around him. So that is what is it. The fourth C is change. Yeah. So now I will give you a 3 minutes time with this 4C framework, where the first one is, I'll repeat myself, clarity, right? Second is conflict. Third one is character. And fourth one is the the kind of change that your product or service can create. Write it down on paper. And I'm telling you, this has worked magic. Like magic, people were actually able to solve most of their problems with this 4C framework. I have done these workshops in Indian Institute of Management, Lucknow as well, NASCOM, and many other platforms. Trust me, if you are able to, do this exercise and do it rightly, right, you will gain a lot of it. So I'll just give you a 2 minutes, the 2 to 3 minutes. Yes, 2 to 3 minutes to write it down. Okay, Abu Talib, I'll just repeat it once again. We were talking about how to craft a narrative, be it for yourself as a founder, be it for your product or service. Yeah. And how, right? For example, what is your one big idea? Write it in one line. That is clarity. Conflict is the kind of challenges or obstacles, right? Or the problem that has triggered, and that is why you came out to solve this. Third is character. What really inspired you to do this, right? And the fourth is, and what kind of change are you really looking to create in this world, or how are you going to make life easier for your customers or different stakeholders? I am giving you 2 more minutes. Yeah. Please write this down. Please write this down. You can take this as a first person as well, to name, uh, but try to do it for your product or service that you are offering, right? For first person, so we have Chandrakari here who says, yeah, if you want to take it, take the topic as health, safety, and nahi, but understand this, Tunim. When you talk about health, safety, and wellness, it cannot be such a, we cannot, it cannot be a wide topic, right? Focus on, aisa nahi, we are not going to say that, oh, I am going to stop wars and change the world. No. What we are talking is that how, through health safety, I'm creating, yes, how how we are creating a safe environment, and talk about a product in one line, right? That this is your big idea. So Chandrakari says here to disrupt digital payment in 6 months. Okay. Uh, Conflict is current platforms. Okay, so I believe Chandra, you are trying to say here is there are multiple digital platforms, right? And to make it one, you would want to create a platform for the same. Yeah. See, the character here is not finance minister or RBI governor. The character here is your product or the service that you're offering. You're probably the stakeholder that might be involved in your product or service, maybe finance minister or RBI governor, right? And the kind of change that you've written, the mindset change by changing priorities of customers but not their needs, right? So you want to prioritize customers in this case. Okay, okay. As Vamshi here says, clarity is key. Lazy people want to get a healthy diet without cravings. Yeah. Lenovo says happiness in what you do. I mean, I couldn't understand what do you refer to happiness in what do you do. I'm not sure what your product or service is about. If you can write a bit. Yeah, right, Anjan. Clarity of direction. Yeah. So Vikas here says clarity to solve the problem of counterfeiting. Right. The conflict was that my toddler being given a fake rash cream. Okay. 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 Now I would give you a mantra for a 3-minute investor pitch. Yeah. Do you have any questions or would you like to ask any questions, where you would want to clarify anything? You may please write it on the chat. Yeah. So, Uday, the character is your product or service that is actually changing the world for your stakeholders, right? For your customers. For example, for example, if you are into a technology business, right? How is this technology going to change the lives of urban population or rural population? So that is the character. Character is not, is not your stakeholder. Character is what you are building, right? That is your character. For example, when we talk about, MS Dhoni or Spider-Man or Superman, right? So the character here is Superman or Spider-Man, or for our own Desi Shaktiman, right? Who was trying to wipe off evil from the society. So that is the character. And conflict is the kind of, the problem that you are solving, or the kind of the problem that has really triggered you to solve that kind of problem, right? Yes, Arpita, I have just given, no, character and conflict is totally different, right? The kind of problem that you're solving, and character is, yes, it is either product or service or the founder stories, right? So Ketan is asking a question here that in, I'm sorry, there are a lot many questions coming in. When you talk about B to C application, should the narrative be focus on the second B or the C? Firstly, if you are a business, right, and who is your customer? Is it a business? Then focus on the business, right? Let the other business take care of the narrative for the customer that they are building, right? So when you talk about Ketan B to C application, right? First focus on the problem that you are trying to solve for the business. That is your customer. So Rudra has also written that the character for her is a tool, a jigsaw puzzle to learn textbook chapters through visual form, right? So here, how you can really form a narrative, Rudra, is that how are you going to make lives easier for mothers or for teachers, right? Where children can actually learn through visual form, right? And this is what you should focus on, right? Mr. Khan here writes that what we stand for: food, authentic, slowed cooking. Yeah. Thank you, Rudra. I hope that was clear to you, because you need to understand that, right? If you are selling a jigsaw puzzle, right, a tool which is in a visual form, right, the end customer is not just child, but the decision, who is taking the decision for that child, right? A mother is taking, right, or a school is taking. So your prime stakeholders are firstly a school, a teacher, and a mother of the children, right, who would actually take a buying decision and then buy your product. So make them understand that how through this visual form their lives are going to change, or how it is going to be easy for them. Yeah. Well, thank you so much, everyone. I What I would suggest you here is stick to this 4C framework, right? We are not just here to tell about what product or service that we have created, but the kind of impact that we creating, and the kind of, again, I'm saying this, the kind of world that you are going to change with this product or service, right? So that is why it is always from product to purpose. And the art of storytelling is not just about, not just typically about how good you are, or how well you've done, or what the turnover is. The art of storytelling for each stakeholders in your business lies in the kind of narrative that you can create for them, right? The kind of value are you going to provide for them, the kind of um, the kind of value you are adding to them. So it come you know it is a whole, it is a whole bouquet of things, right? And thank you so much for today. I would just ask you to keep this 4C framework in mind, and I would send Priyanka a mail where she can, forward the 4C framework to all of you, right? So that you would be benefited by the same. So thank you so much for your time today. And thank you for being a lovely and a very interactive audience. And thank you so much, Priyanka.
Thank you so much, Krippy, for joining us. So I will share the details once I receive from Krippy. And thank you all. Thank you all for such being such a enriching audience and being so interactive. Uh, we'll take it forward then.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.